to this year's NFL draft.
Thank you very much, Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix. Again, he just spits truth about what things are, who things are, why things are where they are when it comes to college football. And, of course, the ratings, the standings, whatever has been released. One more time will be on Sunday. Dave, man, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Based on what they have now with just a handful of games left, Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati, and then those who are on the outskirts, Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Mississippi jump Baylor. That probably props up. Does that prop up Alabama? And then your thoughts about others as well.
No, that doesn't prop up Alabama anymore. That whole this was a more impressive win than that one. Committee didn't have time for all that crap. It's how many top 25 wins you got. You know, it doesn't matter if Ole Miss is 8, 10, 12, 15. It's a top 25 win. You start getting into minutia like that, you can't apply it everywhere. So I think it's really simple. Is there's a bunch of teams that win and you're in. Georgia's already in. Their resume as is right now at 12-1 is still top 4. So you've got Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State trying to play their way in. They're all. Are they favorites? Is Oklahoma State a favorite?
Yes.
Oh my gosh! I was just doing my expected point averaging modeling for these games. Where do I think I had Baylor. I think oh, there it is, right there. All right, I'll go on right now. Here we go. 24-23 Baylor in a barn burner.
Man, people would go insane if that happens. Man, that'd be fun.
That is, if that score happens, actually it's 24.2 to 23.5. So we know that's not going to happen. But that score is the exact, I mean, it is literally the average manifestation of both teams' average offense and defense, plays per game on offense and defense, scoring, everything. That is exactly what they have done for 24 games combined. So, Baylor. I'll take Baylor in the points right now.
Damn, just don't waste any time.
That's right.
I love it. Yeah.
All the way out the top.
I go off on all sorts of tangents. We were talking about rankings, and now we're talking sports betting, and people like sports betting better, anyways. Yeah. But that being said, we have a group of teams, and these are tight games. I mean, there's a lot of reasons Oklahoma State's going to lose this game. There's a lot of reasons Cincinnati's going to lose this game. There's a ton of reasons that Alabama's going to lose this game because they're facing probably the best football team in the last 10 years on paper. And Michigan, God, they're going to have a meltdown to have Iowa's offense beat them. That'll be pretty embarrassing. But realistically, I mean, these teams are trying to play their way in, and Notre Dame is sitting right there waiting for teams to drop out. And Baylor's got to be a question mark, right? I mean, isn't that the topic of discussion? It's like, what if Baylor wins and Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati all lose?
Mm-hmm. I think I have a co-host for a podcast that we do, and he was bringing that up to me, and I was just like, I don't believe they have any chance. And then he started explaining why, and you know what? You're right. It's not being talked about at all, but there was that 0.01% chance if all hell were to break loose.
I think it's better than 0.01, dude. Because you think about it, if Baylor wins, they're jumping Ole Miss and Ohio State, period. Right?
Yeah, because they're not playing.
Because they're not playing. So they're jumping them. So bang, now they're at 7. All right, they've beaten Oklahoma State, which means Oklahoma State has to slide below them. Now they're at 6. If Cincinnati loses, bam, now they're at 5. Dude, we're right there. Okay, we better stop because if they actually end up 5, that would just be hair pulling out, screaming, and there would be some PTSD in Waco.
They've been there before. You're right. In 2014, that's where they ended up, and TCU fell behind them from 3 to 6. I'll never forget that. Paul?
So, Dave, if Cincinnati wins, are they in?
Yeah.
There you go.
They're in.
There. Well, that's good. I think a lot of fans look at Cincinnati and think that they're in that spot. Of course, they get to play and TCU didn't, but they're in that spot that TCU was in, where they were 3rd and then did everything they were scheduled to do and still somehow wound up 6th.
Well, if Cincinnati wasn't playing this weekend and Oklahoma State wins, boom, you flip them.
Yeah.
They're done. They're out. They're out. I mean, we all know. Look, it's the bottom line. It's not the brand. People like to say, "Oh, if that was Oklahoma or Texas instead of TCU, Baylor." Shut up already. There's no correlation with that. I mean, seriously, just anybody says that, just smack them because it's dumb. There's no correlation between brands and the rankings. It's all this framework I've been talking about every time I come on the show. And bottom line, if Baylor and TCU played in a Big 12 championship game this coming Saturday in 2014, the winner is in the top 4. Period. No ifs, no ands, no buts. You want to blame somebody, blame all the guys that told Bob Bowlesby and he himself that said, "Yeah, we don't need a championship game. We do our round robin. We're a little badass. We're cooler than everybody else." No, you're dumber than everybody else, and it cost TCU or Baylor a shot in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that would have been one hell of a game. That would have been incredible to see those two play in a championship game that year. It would have been amazing. Dave, what are your thoughts on Notre Dame sitting there, no game this week, and 11-1 at number 6?
Well, not too bad a shape, right? I mean, given that everything that could go down, because Cincinnati, look, Houston ain't no chump. No. They got good offense. They got good defense. And don't tell me for a second Luke Fickell hasn't been thinking about going to Notre Dame for the last month. Because, look, this Brian Kelly ain't nothing new. It's behind the scenes. Been going on a long time. And so with Fickell, his mind's at Notre Dame, in my opinion. And I think there's opportunity for Cincinnati to drop. Bang, that's Notre Dame. And if Baylor, again, there's I'm telling you, the chaos, it can come down to Baylor, Notre Dame, but Notre Dame does need a lot of upsets to happen for them to have a shot.
If Oklahoma State does win, and that means they beat Baylor, Oklahoma State, Baylor again, if they beat them, is the only way they get in the top 4 is if Alabama loses to Georgia?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the way it is right now. When you look at it, I mean, if Georgia loses, Georgia's going to go to 4, Alabama's going to go to 1, Michigan's going to stay at 2, and then it's going to be Cincinnati or Oklahoma State at 3. And if this committee is honest to the framework that they have used, that I've been talking about, that we calculate every week, if they're honest to it, Cincinnati's in and Oklahoma State is number 5. Which I'm sure Baylor fans would be laughing at anyway. Say, "Hey, well, welcome to the party, pal."
Yeah, no question. There's a lot of that. There is a little bit. You mentioned PTSD. There is some of that as well. All right, what have we not hit on yet? We've kind of gone. Go ahead, Paul.
I do want to ask you about some of these coaching changes, and first off, with Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame, that leaves a hole there, and a lot of talk is about Marcus Freeman. You just mentioned Luke Fickell. Do you think that Notre Dame would pull the trigger and hire Marcus Freeman?
I would like to know what kind of drugs they're on, because I'd like to try them. That'd be pretty cool. A little trippy, probably. No, I don't see any reason to keep Marcus Freeman at all. I think that's crazy to do it. You got Fickell, you got Braum, you got Campbell, all these guys, proven recruiters, proven coaches, everything, proving that hiring guys and firing guys. I mean, there's 3 guys right there. They're all phenomenally better than Marcus Freeman. Nothing against Marcus Freeman. I'm sure he's a terrific guy, but his experience level is 0. Dude, you don't even have your driver's permit yet. You don't get to drive Daddy's brand new car. All right. So it's got to be Fickell, Braum, Campbell, probably in that order. If Freeman stays there, it is, in my opinion, a short-term, huge risk to be doing that. I just can't see in any decision process that is completely short-sighted. And man, that's a lot of risk to be taken, man. I just can't. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. I can't see it.
Dave, you're up there in Pac-12 country. I believe you're a Ducks fan, and USC obviously made a pretty big move last weekend with Lincoln Riley. Your thoughts on that shockwave and obviously the Trojans program with Riley moving forward?
Well, great for the Pac-12 brand. You know, I've always said that conference perception in terms of how good it is only as good as your top 4 or 5 brands. If your top 4 or 5 brands aren't doing it, look at the Pac-12. The only one doing anything is Oregon. Washington down, USC down, UCLA down. You know, so when people look at the Pac-12, they go down. So bringing in Riley, That pumps the brand up, and it's a great opportunity for him. I'm not sure. There's probably some better coaches out there. There probably maybe have been hiring Brian Kelly would have been a better grade than hiring Lincoln Riley. But in terms of winning the emotion and getting fans fired up and getting alumni fired up, boosters fired up, I don't think you could do it any better. In fact, everybody across the board right now, I haven't seen somebody yet not take best man available, at least in the higher end jobs that everybody's been talking about.
Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix, with us. He's been on every week after. He'd been on before, but every week since they really started to release the weekly drama or soap opera of the college football standings.
Yeah, and if somebody's got a playoff question I want to throw out there, can do that real quick, then hit up the text line. But, Dave, amongst those coaching hires, I mean, obviously the LSU job was a big one. The USC job is a big one. I guess two parts here. What direction do you go if you're Oklahoma? And also, amongst the jobs that aren't Kelly or Riley, like the Vatex or whoever else you want to throw in there, what hire stood out to you? I mean, you just said that you liked what you've seen, but what were maybe a hire or two that really stood out to you?
Something, LSU, I mean, you're talking about your apex predator right there, got the best guy available. Boom. Cross that off. Florida couldn't get Kelly, couldn't get Franklin because Franklin re-signed. Third best guy on the board, Napier, boom, got him. Riley, I think that's as good as you're getting for USC, like we just talked about. Mm-hmm. Virginia Tech, they just went in a different direction. I mean, you had Campbell sitting out there, you got Brom sitting out there, you got Dan Mullen sitting out there, and they went and hired Brett Pry, brought him home back to Virginia Tech. No head coaching experience, but a tremendous defensive coordinator, probably the best defensive coordinator effort this year. Faced the second most plays in all of college football and had the second best scoring efficiency defense. So I think there's a bit of a risk there, but I understand the comfort of bringing a guy familiar with campus back into the fold. As for Oklahoma, I've kind of gone back and forth on this. When it first happened, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're screwed. Totally, completely, utterly screwed. They got 3 years left to go in the SEC. But here's the thing. Lincoln Riley was forced to do, this is the short-sighted part of it. People would think, oh, Oklahoma, all he's got to do is just keep going and then roll right in the SEC. Wrong. This team is built for the Big 12. This is a tiny team. This team right now in the SEC gets physically beat to crap within 3 months. So Lincoln Riley was faced with the task of retooling the Oklahoma roster or retooling the USC roster. So if I'm Oklahoma, they can go short-sighted and bring in an offensive guy like Lincoln. Or you go long-sighted and you hire a guy that can build an SEC-style roster. So obviously if you could bring in Matt Rule and Joe Brady, you do it. No brainer. Okay, that guy's built rosters all over the place, and Brady has SEC experience, albeit just for a year. Or you bring in Venables. I think Venables is probably the most logical one that fits that because he's built big defenses at Clemson, and so he understands what it takes to win at the highest level. So to me, and this is kind of hard to explain to Oklahoma fans, like we might take a step back because we actually have to retool this roster. We're too little for the SEC. I don't know if that'll go over very well. But I think that if I'm Joe and I'm looking long term, I need a guy that is going to build a roster that will compete with the SEC from day one. If you wait for that to happen for 3 years, man, there's going to be a lot of stinging.
Dave, thank you, man. Appreciate it as always. Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix, CFB on CFB Matrix on Twitter, with us following the college football playoff numbers when they come out, and he's the one that kind of taught us a little bit about propping up the bottom of the top 25, but also, and I saw this, and I think it's from Gary Lewis on the chat room about his coaching matrix or whatever it is, about if you have a record in your first year, I think it's like -4. If you're under -4 your first year, you're a dead man walking. And I think that happened to Clay Helton. He said that about Sark, who then beat Kansas State to go 5-7 rather than be 4 under 500 in his opening year with Texas. Instead of 4-8, they ended up 5-7.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to get into the coaching conversation as well. And there's not as much. There's tons of playoff scenarios, obviously. I mean, we went over some of them. But, man, Oklahoma State getting left out at number 5. would that'd be a tough pill to swallow. But it's shaping up to where that could happen.
That could absolutely happen. And you wonder if, in fact, Oklahoma State, who's been peaking, then let's say they dominate. I'm not saying they will, but what if they do? What if it's 30-10? He said there's no way Cincinnati, if they beat Houston, will be knocked out of the 4. What if Oklahoma State drills Baylor?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I default to what he just said there. I mean, we didn't get that too in-depth with it, but yeah.
But if Oklahoma State drills Baylor, I mean, look, as long as Georgia wins, then I think that's Alabama a pretty simple thing.
Yeah.
I think it'd be more of like, would Georgia blow out Alabama to the point of where you actually like maybe go, oh, wait a second here. But, I mean, the odds of that also happening are very slim.
I don't know. I mean, I think Georgia's going to win that game. I think they might have the potential. If there's any team that can blow out Alabama in the entire country, it is Georgia. But they would have to have. I mean, again, everything would have to go their way.
Yeah.
But Alabama's also a team that can play really poorly for most of the game and then win.
Yeah,
They've done it several times this year. So.
Interesting scenario, though, there with Baylor. I mean, they would probably get all the way to 5, and that's where it would stop. But, I mean, they could get all the way to 5. And
it is remarkable that we're even saying that.
No, it is.
It is remarkable, as Ricky Thompson mentioned. All right, when we come back, the 5 o'clock hour, we're running a little bit late into it. John Machota will join us today at 5:30, covers the Cowboys in their game tomorrow night against New Orleans. Paul, do we have time to open the phone lines up?
I mean, yeah, for a little bit. You have to be responsible, though.
Call us, please, 254-339-1122, and wish Paul happy Christmas birthday, whatever you want to call it. And also, again, we'd love to hear from you. Your thoughts, what do you think about the college football, the latest rankings that came out? What are the scenarios, not 3 or 4, but one of the scenarios that intrigues you the most about what could happen this weekend? And your thoughts about, as Notre Dame and Oklahoma, they wait for the white smoke to come out of the tower about who their next head coach will be. 254-339-1122, Sikkim 365 Radio. Alan